But again, this goes back to me having memory issues. And like they're all in there, but I can't draw them up. Like I'm not saying I have Alzheimer's or something, but someone that would have Alzheimer's and they can't like think of a name, but if you were to say like the first letter, they'd be like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So like the memory and the storage is there, but the recall is blocked. And that kind of goes for everything, unfortunately. Everything pre-veil, living in the veil.
Yeah. I know we joke about it all the time, but it makes everything new and fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. But it also, like, for me, it makes me feel very insecure and embarrassed because I'm afraid, like, the people around me will feel bad. Let's say it was Presley asking me, like, favorite memories from her childhood. I would probably be able to come up with something to get through that conversation. But, like, in all reality, the specifics are a really big blur, even though that is post-veil. So it feels like everything pre-veil is in a farther back storage container and takes longer to get to.
Yeah.
And stuff like post-veil is still foggy, but yesterday, dude, I probably couldn't tell you what the heck I did yesterday. That's how bad it is. The information is getting stored, but the recall and pulling it up is difficult. But it's also immediate. There's something in the process from bringing it out of storage. It's not that I have no memory of it. It's that, like, the attainment of the information, the initiation of my brain to attain the information from the storage bunker. Something's wrong there.
Now, do you think that is neurodivergence, or do you think that is
No, that's
dysautonomia?
it from illness.
Yeah.
That is 100% from illness, because I did not used to operate that way. Not at all. No. And ever since then, and I'm starting to zero in really on what is it? You know what I mean? The same with my dad and like his stroke. They can locate, okay, here's the problem. I've just had to do that kind of naturally on my own. And I figured out that it has to do with something about bringing the information up. Like just the other day, I was walking with Presley somewhere and she was like, you remember this? And I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that. So when she tells me about it, I'm like, oh, I remember that in full detail. If you ask me to come up with that myself independently and go get that, I could not do that for you.
Sure, that makes sense.
But if you tell it to me, I immediately have the file. So it's if you were like on a computer and you need a certain image, the image is in the computer. You just don't remember what you called it. And like, you don't know how to navigate to it. But if someone pulled it up, you'd be like, there it is.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to describe like how whatever happened to my memory got damaged. And time and space, the consecutive nature of time and space is all skewed. And then like the size of things.
That's valid.
The size and duration of things is, and I can 100% say, and you can say, because you knew me pre-illness too, that I was not that way before. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
I was not that way before?
No.
Okay.
The brain fog didn't happen until after you got sick.
Yeah. And I can also feel the difference between brain fog, like on the bad day, and the actual reorganization of my brain.
Yeah.
And watching my dad go through his stroke recovery is interesting because I do wonder if if whatever happened to me was taken seriously and I had the physical therapy and the neurotherapy in that window of recovery, like they talked about for him, I wonder if I wouldn't be left with those deficits. Because like they said, there's like a 6-month window that if you like work that neuroplasticity and you locate the areas real fast, you can fix it. But for me, like obviously that didn't happen. So I just do wonder if that would be different.
Yeah. They didn't even know something was wrong until a year or two later. We knew something was wrong, but they didn't have any idea.
And what I was saying before is that it makes me very insecure, not because there's not ways to get around it, and not because I can't like live my life with those issues. They're probably barely even noticeable unless you're around me a lot. I feel like close friends notice it. You obviously notice it. Presley notices it and stuff like that. And that's the part that makes me feel insecure is, will my brain deficits from whatever happened how will they make other people feel? I'm not like embarrassed to have them. Can't do anything about it. It's like, how would it make someone else feel? Would Presley feel upset that I couldn't remember? Or like, would your feelings be hurt that I can't recall? I can't pull up the memory. If you pull up the memory, I'm like right there with you. Yes, that's amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Not to be cheesy, but like the Notebook, when she forgets everything and he like tells it to her again, like I understand that. That makes sense. So I just worry about how it would make other people feel. And I do see that play out in some of my relationships where a friend will like tell me something they're doing. And then I'll be like, where are you going? You know, and they'll be like, I'm going here. I told you that, you know, and I'm like, and it translates to like, you don't care.
Yeah. I can see that.
So it makes me insecure. And then it also makes me insecure worrying if that will improve with time or if it will get worse with time. And so far, I feel like it's stayed fairly stable.
Yeah, I haven't seen it get any worse. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But you stay pretty aware of that too, so.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it is uncomfortable as a person to deal with. And that's why I had so much sympathy for my dad going through his stroke, and he's still going through his recovery right now, is because it disrupts the feeling of continuity of being a human person. Like you have a continuous.
Yeah.
Whereas like for me, it's like it's all glitchy. And instead of a linear line where you're like, I remember being a kid and I remember this and I remember this and it's lined up, mine are like stacked as if they're like all happening at the same time and they all have the same importance. So one, that can create like a lot of stress and anxiety and confusion. And then two, it can make it just feel like your life experience is very jumbled. Like the idea of like past, present, big, small, all those things are just like mixed up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know you well enough to know when you're struggling with that, but I think less people think about that than you think. Am I saying that right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And people are more understanding than, I can just speak for myself. A lot of times people are more understanding than I think they are.
For sure. That does make me feel better because I do worry about that a lot. I don't know. I worry about how others are experiencing me because of that deficit and how it affects things. Because the way that you experience time and space and memory and things like that affects like how you behave and how you treat people.
Yeah.
And so like I'm just ridiculously present a lot of times to, even though it probably doesn't come across that way. But yeah, I just wonder if that ever affects how people perceive me or affects how they think I feel about them or something.
Yeah. I get that. I feel like the good ones and the true ones know.
Yeah, and then also like I am selective but trying to get more comfortable with who I share that with too. Like telling people, like if I'm close enough with someone, I'd be like, hey, I'm not going to remember that. Like I had an experience the other day where there was an event somebody had told me about involving Presley, and I was like, okay, can you remind me? And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, can you let me, I'm going to put it on my calendar. I'm going to tell Ryan. I'm going to text myself. I'm going to tell her about it. I'm going to set an alarm, but I still need you to remind me too. And it's not a big deal, but it's just one of those passing things that I think like you would not experience because you would just like, hear the information and be like, cool, and make your note and then move on. I have to put all those safeguards in place because my memory does not work the way other people's memories work since getting sick. And then it was one of very few times, it's fairly rare, where that person was very confused by what I was asking them to do.
Oh, I see.
They were like, when do you want me to remind you? And I was like, I don't know, like the day before or something, or the day of. Just put it back in my head, like the other day when I forgot that she had to go to piano. I know like some people would forget something and be like, oh, shoot, wrong day. I don't think people realize, or even you realize, how hard I work to avoid those scenarios. Because that what I did the other day, that's my default. That is my baseline. And so I have to overwhelm that baseline level of memory issue all the time.
Yeah.
And the other day was one of the first times where I was like, oh, I felt the sting a little bit of being like, okay, this is something different, and this person does not understand why this is a need for me, because it has to do with my memory issues, and it's since getting sick.
Yeah. And then how do you combat that?
And they did, and they followed up, and they did. And I was like, thank you so much.
Yeah. I see you.
Because also, like in partnership and in family, I don't want to put all of that mental load on everyone else. Like, I'm responsible to remember my stuff. And it is my responsibility at the end of the day, but just broken.
Yeah. But we're a team.
What were you saying? How do
you combat that? I know you make a lot of lists.
Crippling anxiety and high levels of hypervigilance. Yeah. Lists for sure, making lists, texting you constantly, stuff to remember, remaking my list, keeping my list in like a rotating fashion. Like I have a litany of brain hacking, biohacking things to get around this issue. And then also just making peace with it.
Yeah.
I would worry about myself if I was on my own. I think about that a lot. I would feel very insecure about, because I mask it and hide it. I'm not trying to over dramatize my issues, but it's like a real issue that I think that we cloak like really well within a good partnership and
we
stuff.
do it fluidly and organically. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think if I was on my own, let's say I was like an older woman and like you got hit by a bus or something, knock on wood, I'm deeply afraid of that. I'm afraid of that reality because I know my deficits and I know that they're a lot bigger than you realize and that other people realize. And I think it could become problematic very quickly. Now, would it be like, are we talking life-threatening? No. But I'm definitely one of those people that since getting sick, I would be someone that would leave the stove on. I would forget to take my meds. I would have difficulty scheduling appointments. I would have to be so rigorous, and I think that my anxiety levels would be even higher just to keep it together.
Yeah. Which is not good for your blood pressure.
No. It's not. So, yeah, you probably don't even realize how I have a lot of moments internally, even now, years later after being sick and being in what I would say is like in full recovery from illness, where I will forget something or I will feel like that mental disorganization as a result of getting sick. And I will secretly in my mind be like, wow.
Yeah.
And feel like that fear and that shock of holy crap. Wow. And so we put things in place, pill organizer, routines, us got it, check, you got that, texting each other, constant reminders, lists. I think Presley's really on it too.
Yeah. She's starting to follow suit, which I think is really cool. She's like setting reminders in her phone and doing things on her calendar, and I see her like really trying to figure out her system for things.
I would say I do excellent at my life.
Yeah.
Considering, but I think most people don't know. Yeah, just don't know that.
Yeah. And I need to. If you're handling it all well and we're handling it together, like it's no one else's business. If that makes sense. I don't mean that to sound cold. I just mean day in and day out.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to think about because you and I have learned firsthand that if you have disability, illness, deficits, and things like that, however you arrived at those, sometimes letting people know that, like, I'm all for transparency and like showing up and putting myself out there. But sometimes letting people know that can really make them view you differently in a way that's detrimental.
Absolutely.
If I were to tell just an acquaintance or something that I have, hey, like I have some sort of brain damage, some sort of global brain damage from an illness XYZ years ago, that would definitely change the way they viewed me. The same as, let's say you're in recovery and you tell someone, oh yeah, I used to be addicted to XYZ. That instantaneously changes the way that person views you, even though you're not that person and that's only 5% of your existence. And so that's really tricky thing to decide when to disclose.
Yeah. And it really does totally depend on the person you're talking to and the relationship that you have with them, because
Yeah.
that can go one of two ways. They can go, oh, that's really cool, thanks for sharing that with me, that helps me understand more. Or they can go, good for you, and then it's like
Yeah.
pity and like wallowing in it with you. And I'm like, I'm not trying to wallow in pity or like for anything that I got going on.
And I think when you disclose things like that, like maybe medical issues or physical disability or past things like addiction or something like that, any time you slip up or you make a mistake, it's going to get shoved under that rug.
Right.
And it's not for them to know or decide, hey, did I just forget because I just forgot, like normal person forgot, or did I forget as a function of, my disability?
Mhm.
And then how much are you going to shove under that rug? Like, let's say you were applying for a job. If I were out in the regular job market, like applying for a job, would I write down, hey, I have this disability? Like, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
If I were applying for a job now, I probably would not disclose that I have dysautonomia.
I don't think so.
Because they're going to Google that, and that comes with a lot of, if you were applying for a job, you wouldn't say, hey, here's a blah, blah, blah from my.
Nope.
Nope.
Do you have any
So it's,
any history? Absolutely not.
and that's tricky because, like, we're really big on transparency. And like, you want to normalize things, but you also, yeah, that's tricky.
Yeah. I want to normalize things to the people in my community and the people that I feel safe with and the people that I am close with. But that guy I'm
Like
passing
the
on the
greater world.
sidewalk, I'm not going to be like, hey, guess what?